The problem with our central bankers is that the politicians have given up.
Jean-Pierre, what we've currently got at the moment, from what it seems, is that a lot of countries are relying really heavily on their central banks for economic stimulation. And what it seems to be at the moment is it's kind of like it's the plan A for economic stimulation. Do you think that this is a wise decision, especially when you've got countries like Japan, which have relied quite heavily on this method? You know, they're currently not in a good place at the moment. So do you think it's wise that this is kind of a plan A?
Well, on the present situation, I have a tendency to look back and see where were we in 2008 when the central banks started to develop these non-conventional ways of dealing with the supposed recessions or problems in the financial world. Now, the debt to GDP in 2008 worldwide was 1-to-1. And after pumping significant amounts of liquidities into the market, nowadays we're at a ratio of 3-to-1. Have we seen a significant improvement by tripling the world debt compared to the GDP in the world, which means these investments, this debt, should have been invested in productive tools that improved the living standards and the economic situation. But where has it gone? It has not gone into productive tools. So that the situation has not significantly improved over these years. What we can also see is, yes, in certain economies it's slightly better, but when you see how much it costs to make it slightly better, it is definitely not the way to go forward. The problem with our central bankers is that the politicians have given up because the politicians have decided they were not going to reduce their budgets. So they have to find the money somewhere. They wash their hands about that by transferring all the powers to the central bankers. And the central bankers nowadays, I'm very sorry to say, but they are at a loss. Because, do you stimulate the economy with negative interest rates? Obviously not. It is also interesting to see that basically a monetary policy has been existing for the last 5,000 years. And never during that period has ever anybody been in the position to say, oh, I'm going to lend money to governments at the negative interest rates, knowing very well that these governments are broke. So the whole system right now is just like a pyramid upside down. What is going to happen is, I think, the crucial question.
And so with Japan, who's currently in quite a difficult position because they've got the decision between either stimulating their economy or reducing their currency. Do you think that, reducing the strength of their currency. Do you think that Japan can get out of the mess that it's in at the moment?
Well, I think everybody will get out of the mess sooner or later, but there are always structural and cultural issues that each country has to deal with, and the way we measure economic success too. The Japanese culture is what it is. And I think that the Japanese people are not ready to give up their culture. Ultimately, the economy will develop the way it will over years. The debt of the Japanese country is not so problematic because it's held by Japanese citizens. And there are cultural issues. Each country has its cultural issues, and not everybody will take over an Anglo-Saxon financial culture. That is just, globalization does not mean that everybody is living by Anglo-Saxon standards.
And we've got, recently some MPs have come out and criticised the Bank of England's quantitative easing program that it has proposed, saying that, well, basically saying that it's going to make them worse off than what the economy was after the GFC crisis in 2008. Do you agree with this point of view?
What I look at is the result of quantitative easing, and the result of quantitative easing has been very poor. So if it's just to look at what is going to happen if you do this based on the experience we have now of, 8 years of quantitative easing, I must say I have a tendency to support that theory that it's not the right thing to do right now. The right thing to do right now is to give, again, visibility and to give the possibility to people to work. The problem I see with Europe, and specifically with the European Union, why everything stagnates, is over-regulation in all segments of the markets. You know, there's two elements that slow down economic growth. It's corruption and over-regulation. And I would even say that over-regulation is worse than corruption because it stops. The effects are interesting in over-regulation because it narrows the capability for people to enter the market, and therefore it stops economic development just the same way corruption would do. And like in the European Union, if you have a combination of high corruption and high over-regulation, then you will have an economy at a standstill. And that is what's happening in Europe. If you read the report of Transparency International on corruption, for example, in France, but you can translate that in all European Union countries, you will see that this is a significant problem for European development.
Well, Jean-Pierre, thank you so much for coming in and speaking with us today.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
That's all from myself and Jean-Pierre today, but if you liked this video, there are plenty more on our website, dukascopy.tv.